yoga ball, I swear. Hello and welcome back to How to Hen. Today I'm going to give you 9 icebreaker games that can help bond everyone at your Bachelorette hen weekend and help them get to know each other. Now I know icebreakers can be a bit like cringe and remind you of like bad office team building days, but hen parties normally are different groups of people who don't know each other. The only thing that they have in common is the bride. Now of course, if this is a really small, just close friends who all know each other anyway kind of affair, you don't really need the icebreakers because everyone is already good friends. But if there are groups of people who don't know each other, icebreakers are the way to go. So I'm going to talk you through 9 today. 3 of them will be family friendly, 3 of them will be not family friendly, not safe for work, and 3 of them will be adaptable to your audience depending on who is coming. So the first thing I want to talk about very briefly is who your audience is. You need to think about who is coming. Don't just pluck random icebreaker games out of the ether of the internet and say, yeah, we'll play those. Because, you know, if grandma's coming, she doesn't necessarily want to be paired up and have to hump the best friend from college. Okay? Unless, of course, she is a particularly hilarious grandma and she thinks that that would just be brilliant. To each their own. Just think about who's going to be there, what their tastes are like. Most importantly, what the bride's taste is like. You don't want to embarrass her in front of her mother-in-law unless she's okay with that and the mother-in-law is sort of okay with that. Ideally though, icebreaker games are not designed to embarrass anyone. That is saved for later in the weekend when everyone knows each other a little better. Okay, let's get into the games. So of our sweet, family-friendly, anyone can play games, the first one is what age was the bride? So depending on how you want to do this, there is a little bit of prep work involved. What you have to do is get photographs of the bride, either from family members, from scrolling through her Facebook, whatever, and you print them out, stick them on a big bit of board and number them. And then what you do is everyone has to write down 1 to 10, 1 to 15, 1 to 8, however many photos you've got, what age they think the bride was in each of those photographs. Including the bride, because she might not actually know. She should answer last when you're doing your answers because, you know, she doesn't want to give anything away, but she might not actually be bang on the money. If you don't have loads of photos and you want to stretch the game out a little bit, you can have a photo and then a statement or a story about something that she did or said at a particular age. Again, you get this from parents, family, friends, whoever, and you intersperse that through the photographs and people have to guess what age she was when she said or did said thing. This is a nice way to get people talking and a good way for maybe the friends side to bond better with the family side who remember things she did when she was young, and then for family to see some of her pictures and hear some of the stories of when she was out with some of the friends who are there. It's a nice way to get everyone together. Number 2. What's in my purse / handbag, whatever. This is a really fun one. I actually have a printable version of this which is super easy to use on howtohen.com. If you drop me a comment below or send me a message, I'd be more than happy to send you the template for this game. So basically all it is a score sheet that gives you a certain number of points depending on if you have said item in your handbag. So you know, you'll score 1 point if your purse, as in your actual wallet, is in there, and if your phone and your keys are in there, because that's most people. You'll score 2 points if maybe you have some napkins and a perfume in there, all the way up to 4, I think it's 4 points for big things like a hairbrush or a coat hanger or, you know, random items. Again, I'm more than happy to send you that if you just drop me a message. And number 3 of our sweet family friendly ones is how do you know the bride? So this is kind of similar to what age was the bride, but requires less prep in that you don't need to collect photos, print anything out and make it on a board. All you need to do is ask everyone who is coming in advance to give you a couple of sentences or a phrase that is about how they know the bride and their relationship with them, but keep it sort of vague. So for example, one of my good friends, I met her in lectures at university and we started to doodle into each other's notes and, you know, write funny things to each other during the lecture because we were bored. In one of these lectures, I think the lecturer said man when he went to say woman. So he ended up saying something that sounded a little bit like man-wom, and my friend and I thought that that was absolutely hilarious, and we started writing it down and laughing about it, and it's a thing that we've joked about ever since. I don't even remember the context of it, but it's a sort of integral part of the story of how we started. So if she were to give a sentence that said, or not even a sentence, if she were just to write the word man womb and submit that, it would work for this. So once you've collected everyone's sort of vague statements to do with their relationship for the bride, you then all sit together, you give them to the bride, so either written out in note format or even just in a note on your phone so that she can scroll through. It doesn't have to be complicated. She then reads out each statement and she has to guess who submitted it and who the relationship is. And this is fun because even if she gets most of them right, like I would definitely get that one right because I know that she's the only person who would write man womb, because what's that got to do with anything else? What you then do is the bride tells the story of where this phrase or whatever it is came from, and everyone in the group then gets to know a little bit about her relationship with this person, and therefore we all get to know each other a little bit better. Okay, so those are the 3 sort of family friendly ones. You can play them with the mums and the aunties and the, you know, the sort of very conservative friend from school and whoever. You can play them with anyone. Now let's do the 3 slightly more Bachelorette appropriate things you wouldn't maybe necessarily want to do with your mother in the room. She says, I did most of these with my mother and my mother-in-law at my Bachelorette. Okay, number 1, the sexy score sheet. Now, this is another thing that you can get on howtohen.com. If you message me directly, again, I'm happy to give you this. The score sheet is basically a list of sexual exploits, shall we say, and activities that range from things particularly tame to things that are absolutely outrageous. And you basically, in private, tick off all of the things that you have done and add up your score, your final score. When everyone is finished, the bride goes around the room and she guesses what each person's score is. Now again, this isn't a great icebreaker if you don't want people to be upset or offended. You know, this is quite a risky one, and it has to be a group of like-minded women who take part. Not necessarily all women, right enough. If she guesses the number correctly, then you have to do a shot or a forfeit or a dare or however you're doing it, some sort of punishment. If she doesn't guess correctly, she drinks. Maybe not necessarily a shot, depending on how many people are there. You don't want to kill her right at the beginning of the weekend. This is a risky but particularly fun icebreaker if you have the right group for it, because once it's finished, you have a good idea of how adventurous everyone else in the room is, and it makes people slightly uncomfortable and they laugh. But remember, only play this if you think that everyone else in the room might be comfortable giving their score away. You don't want to put anyone in a position where they feel like, actually, I don't even want to do this. Important to point out that you don't have to share the things that you've done. You can say to people, if the bride guesses wrong, you don't actually have to share what your actual score is. You could just say, no, that's not correct, and then leave it at that. It's totally up to you. Number 2, musical bang gangs. I think you know what I'm trying to say. Yes, it's exactly like musical statues, except when the music stops, you get yourself and a partner into a particularly compromising position, or, you know, a fun position, and then you hold it. This one is not only good for breaking the ice on a social level, but physically it gets people up and around and moving, and it forces people into each other's sort of bubble on their personal space in a really sort of fun way. So by the end of this game, everyone will feel like they're best friends. Number 3, on a very similar tone, we have the balloon hump. So essentially this is an easy one where you just have people into pairs. Either they can choose or you can put them into pairs so that you don't have anyone left out, depending on if you have someone who's there on their own. You get a balloon, you put it together, and you tell them to hump until they burst the balloon. You can either do it where the first person to burst the balloon wins a prize, or the last person to burst their balloon has a forfeit or a dare, or both. It's totally up to you. Again, this is just useful because it gets people up into each other's grill and personal space, and it gets everyone laughing without having to share any sort of compromising information like the first one. Okay, so that was my 3 sort of slightly rude or risky ones. And now let's do 3 that are adaptable, totally depending on the kind of crowd that you've got. Number 1, how well do you know the bride? Again, can you believe it? This is another one that is available on www.howtohen.com. If you would like a copy of this, please get in touch with me and I will give you it. It's a sheet of questions that everyone writes down their answers to, and then the bride gives her answers to see how well everyone knows her. So this is adaptable because there are two versions of this game. I can provide you both. One is the sort of family friendly sweet version, like what colour are her eyes? What town did she grow up in? When did she meet her future spouse? Etc. Or you can make it a little bit filthier and you can ask questions like what's her favourite position? And has she ever tried... Well, I'll leave that one for your imagination. Depending on who you have there and how rude you want to make it, totally adaptable. So again, let me know if you would like me to send you either of those sheets and I can do that. Number 2, never have I ever. This is obviously a party favourite for a reason. And again, super adaptable. You don't need any resources apart from a drink. It doesn't even have to be an alcoholic drink if you have people who aren't drinking alcohol. It's purely for the bonding experience. If you have never played Never Have I Ever, all the rule is that you say something that you've never done, although honestly I think you can even just say something you have done. Everyone who has done that thing, drink. If you haven't, you don't. So this is an adaptable game because usually when it starts, it's things like never have I ever been to Paris, never have I ever skipped school. And as the night progresses and the drinks keep going, the questions will get more and more personal and more risky until you end up with questions like, never have I ever been in a 10-person orgy, etc. So this is the one that you as an organiser can start the ball rolling with quite sort of tame questions, but if you know that the group is up for a laugh and you know that it's going to get to that stage eventually, you can help push it along. It's also nice because it's a pretty unstructured, very organic game that just sort of flows the more people get to know each other, so it doesn't feel like a structured itinerary game. Good to do in downtime. And the last one that is adaptable is what's on my phone. So very similar to the sort of sweet little what's in my handbag, I have another score sheet that I can give you that is for 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, 4 points, things that you will find on your phone. So certain apps like Facebook and Instagram will be 1 point. A picture of the bride might be 3 points, etc, etc. Now the reason that this is adaptable is because you can make some of those things a little bit risky by saying something like 3 points if you have a naked picture of yourself. 5 points if you have a sex dated in the last 2 weeks. And then you can also choose, depending on the room, if you want it to be a rule that they then have to show said sext or picture or whoever. And that, again, very much depends on who is there. You don't want to force anyone to do anything that makes them definitely uncomfortable. Not cool, not good for the party vibes. Yes, it's fun to push the boat out. Yes, it's fun to embarrass the bride and make her squirm a little bit, but you don't want her to feel genuinely uncomfortable and feel like there is pressure to reveal things either about herself or other people in the room that she doesn't want to do. Okay, there are loads of other icebreakers, but I'm only going to give you those 9 just now. If you want any other information about anything I've said, please drop me a message. Everything is in the description box below. And remember to subscribe and hit the little bell. I only post once a week and it's helpful guides like this, me reacting to episodes of Don't Tell the Bride, crafting with cocktails, a whole load of Bachelorette fun related things. I hate saying Bachelorette. But in the meantime, happy henning guys. Love you, bye!